Hello, it's Mrs Glasson. Welcome to Wonderful Words beginning with H. Now, this letter of the alphabet is rather unusual in that there seems to be some ambiguity around its correct pronunciation. Whilst I have always maintained that the 8th letter of the alphabet is pronounced H, some people seem to pronounce it H. How do you pronounce it? What do you think? These are things that one can consider in wonderful words beginning with H. Let's get going. So, as I said, I have always maintained that the 8th letter of the alphabet is pronounced H, and I have always admonished my students who have pronounced it H. But is that unfair of me? How do you pronounce it? What do you think? Do you think that I should relent? Do you think that I'm wrong in saying to my students that they must pronounce it H? Okay, we're going to now have a 20-second pause whilst you think about answers to those questions. What do you think? Okay, so now we are back from our 20-second hiatus. Hiatus, meaning break or pause. Do write it down. And now, as is my wont, let me find you an example of that word in a real-life context. Adele returns to music after a 6-year-long hiatus. So there we have the word hiatus. We came back to the lesson. We resumed with the lesson after a 20-second hiatus. So I was interested in the word. I knew it already, but what I was particularly interested in also was the use of the hyphens there. So we'll talk about that in a second. So hyphen, also beginning with H. So let's go back now to consider some more examples of sentences containing the word hiatus. So here we are, some sentences. The singer returns after a 6-year-long hiatus, as I showed you, and a 2-year hiatus from teaching. My friend recently took a 2-year hiatus from teaching and travelled around the globe. I was so jealous, but it's lovely to see her and have her back again. The actor took a 2-month hiatus before returning to the stage as Othello, one of my favourite Shakespearean protagonists. So you notice the use of the word hiatus there, the noun. Excellent. But also you will notice the use of the hyphens. So 6-year-long, 2-year, 2-month. So here we have the adjective there, adjective, 6-year-long, 2-year and 2-month. And they are obviously modifying this noun here, hiatus, hiatus, hiatus. And therefore you can see that they are hyphenated. They are compound adjectives. Being able to use hyphens correctly, when do you use them? Why do you use them? Look it up if you're unsure. And again, it's that wonderful thing called the internet. I spend ages on there researching things like this. Even if I know things, I kind of want to hone and perfect my knowledge. I'm a proactive, independent learner. And from experience, it's proactive, independent learners that are happy, successful learners. So it's a good habit. If you're not sure about anything, be an independent learner, be proactive, look it up. Now that protagonist, the eponym, Othello, I was talking about Othello the other day. My son was saying, Mum, which Shakespeare play should I read that I've never read? And I said, Othello. I taught him Twelfth Night for A-level English literature, but until that point on the syllabus, Othello had always been on the syllabus, and it's kind of a regret of mine that I never taught him Othello. And I love Othello for lots of different reasons. It's got a very, very resonant hamartia. There's a word beginning with H, which I'm not going to go into now. Kind of goes with hubris. Perhaps when there are GCSE and A-level students who are familiar with hamartia and hubris. However, what I was also saying to my son was that in Othello, the play, there is a particularly compelling evil villain or antagonist, as we call them. He's particularly heinous, is what I said. So there we have a word beginning with H. Heinous, meaning wicked. And here is a word you might not be sure about how it's pronounced, but I think I've shown you this before, but I'll show it to you again, this whole idea of being proactive. I love the fact that these days you can do this and check your pronunciation.
Heinous.
There we go. Listen.
Heinous. Heinous. Heinous.
Heinous. And as I've said to you before, I wish they had this kind of thing when I was growing up, because coming to English relatively late, it's not my first language. I did mispronounce words dreadfully when I first started speaking English, and also because I'd learnt a lot of words from books, so I wasn't really sure how they sounded, and it was always a bit of a shock when I encountered them in the real world, and I'd been saying them wrong in my head, and I'd probably been saying them wrong aloud as well. But this is a great device, and again, it's not that magic thing called the internet. Let's do it again. I love it.
Heinous. Heinous.
Okay, let's get back to the tutorial. So here we have my complete works of Shakespeare. As I said, in Othello, the villain, Iago, he really does give us a masterclass, Shakespeare, in crafting this dreadful, monstrous, and yet compelling Machiavellian, duplicitous villain. He's absolutely astonishing. Now, duplicitous, that's a word that my foundation course and my 11 plus revision course students will know. And that's, again, one of those words. Anyone that's ever been taught by me knows the word duplicitous and the adjective duplicity that comes from there. So let's think about some synonyms for heinous. The heinous Iago. Oh, he's absolutely amazing. By the way, students, you might find this as well, that often the antagonists, and I think I teach you that quite early in the foundation course, when I'm analysing a work of literature and modelling for you the language of inference. Often the antagonists in stories are more compelling, that kind of evil, the crafting of them is very, very interesting. And as I've said to you before, the reason that we read fantastic writers like Shakespeare, skilled writers, and we deconstruct their texts, like we deconstruct the way that they craft their characters, because characters are obviously constructs. We can learn a lot about being excellent writers ourselves. And quite early on in the revision course, I revised this whole idea of characterization, how to craft a compelling and convincing character. Very, very important part of your writing skills, integral to being able to write a compelling narrative, I would say. So what about those wonderful synonyms then? Odious, monstrous, abominable. Iago was definitely all of those things. So some fantastic synonyms for heinous. Enough of being heinous. How about thinking of a word beginning with H that is more positive? How about thinking about something that we should all aspire to being? Can you think of anything? This is what I've thought of. There we are, hard-working. That's something that we should aspire to being, not heinous, but hard-working. And how about some synonyms then? Industrious, diligent, and conscientious. What a fabulous set of synonyms. You definitely want your teachers to use adjectives like that about you on your school reports, wouldn't you, students? But what about the times when students perhaps haven't been so conscientious? There's a word that I used to use beginning with I. I used it sparingly because I was lucky I had some very, very conscientious English students in my classes. But there is a word beginning with I, an ambitious word that begins with I, that does spring to mind to describe students who aren't so conscientious or diligent or hardworking. Can you think of what it is? Actually, students, the next tutorial focuses on wonderful words beginning with I. So I think I'll just save it for the next tutorial. But in the meantime, why don't you see if you can guess what it is? It's an ambitious word beginning with I. That's an antonym for hardworking, conscientious, and industrious. And so, talking about hardworking, I hope that you've been keeping up with the tutorials. I hope that you have been learning some wonderful words. Please do press the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. My own students have been very diligent actually, and they've been quite excited. They've been saying, "Oh, Miss, when you post a video, we get an alert. My mum tells me that you posted a video," and I've actually been testing them on some of the words that I've taught in the tutorials. They know a lot of them, but they don't know all of them. And likewise, if you enroll on the foundation course, you will have over 200 words, and very few of them have been included in the tutorials. I know many, many more words. And also in the 11 plus revision course, likewise, there are over 300. And the great thing about those courses is that unlike with these tutorials, the words are taken from extracts. So they're already contextualized by the fantastic non-fiction and fiction texts that I have chosen to teach in my courses for comprehension and creative writing, and also all the other skills that are brought together in my courses. Okay, so talking about courses and studying, I hope that you have been diligent in watching these tutorials in order to, and now you must be able to join in, you must know it by heart. You ready? Elevate your lexis, make your diction more dexterous, and make your English exemplary. Make sure you've subscribed, and I will see you next time with those wonderful words beginning with I.